Hi Aquarius, I hope that you're all doing well. So I was just going to pull a couple cards to feel what was going on within the energy, but then kind of the spread kept going. So I have cards that are out. I pulled it with the intention of it being specifically for this reading that we were doing. So we started off with the Queen of Swords, which feels like sitting in a position where you are taking everything in and looking at things, but for some reason it feels like getting to a point where answers are actually being found, ones that are clear and correct. That's what one is hoping to accomplish, but maybe doesn't feel easy in this scenario. So basically, you're sitting in a situation and you're looking around at it and you're trying to figure out what you need to see in order to see things clearly, and I think as objectively as you could see within this situation, but for some reason it feels like a situation where it's not easy to see things clearly. So what I'm seeing recently happened was that it could have felt like recently things were maybe going in one direction, something happened, it feels like things were pretty solid for the most part, but now I'm seeing us coming up to a point where it feels like it's not so simple anymore. So that can mean one thing was happening and it was going in one direction. Now something comes up which makes it seem like there's more than just that's going on. So I'm seeing that kind of be part of the axis point. Where I'm seeing there be kind of where you are with things, it's funny because it feels like there's a seeking for clarity, and in some ways I'm seeing you be sure about particular things. I don't think that there's always a clear understanding of what's influencing certain things. So I'm seeing the Hierophant be an influence here. This is a Taurian energy. When we have the Hierophant being an influence in a more subconscious way or a less conscious way, it can mean that there's basically a structure that we are thinking within that we don't always realize how much that impacts us. So deeply what this feels like is certain beliefs that you're holding that you may see as being truth, and it may be less truth and it may be more just a subjective belief, but it is a structure of some sort. It's kind of like when you subscribe to a particular school of thought, we may believe very much that it's the truth and that's how it is. Yet, is it the ultimate truth? And I think you have something going on here, a situation that you're looking at where it's being filtered through your belief system, essentially. And I think that you have clarity as far as what the system is and how it works, but as far as there being deeper clarity, even more objective clarity, when we reference this entire situation, it may be lacking a little bit. Because having Hermit here feels like something is still being deciphered, but it feels like the lens that you are looking at things through, it's like if you have a lens over top of the initial lens that you look through, things are going to be filtered through that, and it's very hard to separate because you're looking through that particular lens. So if you have a blue lens over top of the initial lens that you use, you're seeing everything colored blue. And that's what I feel like the Hierophant is, something that what you're seeing is being filtered through. So even though in certain ways you can see things clearly through that blue filter, the blue filter is not the only filter. And I feel even like seeing things through any other filter is not totally being accessed now at this point. Where you are with things overall feels like being in a position where you can feel like a lot is going on, you can feel like a lot is changing, and you can also feel like you're being kind of forced to surrender to what's happening, but there can be this being forced to let go in certain ways. This is what's happening, I just have to go with this, otherwise you're going to be swimming upstream. As far as what's going on within the environment, I see more stillness than anything. It feels like on the inside, you're going through this whole like inner hemorrhaging and shedding that's taking place. But on the outside, I see things being very still and quiet. And it feels like this uncanny, strange, like opposites are happening, where you can feel like there's a volcano erupting internally, and that all of that is going on below the surface. But when you look at the surface, it's just like completely serene and still. As far as the concerns for the situation that you're in and what's going on, I think the fear is not seeing things clearly, being deceived in some way, whether this has to do with another person or it has to do with yourself. So it can be like, I fear like lying to myself. I fear not being honest with myself. I fear wanting to believe something so badly that it evades the truth in some way, whether it's like coming from another person or it's myself here, which also indicates like when that's the fear, it means like what we really want is to see things clearly. We really do want the truth. We really do want to be seen. And I'm seeing there be a forward movement that is going to be happening. But it feels like it also takes, I don't know if it's like bravery that it takes to do this, or just like a willingness to be like vulnerable or transparent, but I definitely am seeing that. But it can be kind of a concern that if I lay my cards out on the table, that I don't know if my energy is going to be matched or not, and I don't know if I'll be able to tell the difference whether it is or not. I kind of get that, you know, like maybe there's somebody that you want to have a really honest conversation with, and you're not sure whether or not you're going to get the truth, which is not like really too much of an issue in and of itself. I think more the issue is like not knowing whether you get the truth or not. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even like whether or not somebody would tell you the truth. It's like, how would I know if they did or they didn't? And that can be with you too. Like, am I really telling the truth? Am I really being transparent? That can be something that is kind of going on with all of this too. I think that there's really like a seeking of it, but I do get this thing again of like how clearly can you actually see things when you have that filter on? But I wonder as well if this is something that you're kind of removing so you can see things without that filter, without that colored lens, where you can just see everything as it actually is. So maybe that's what things have been building towards. But when that happens, I feel like it makes things more complex rather than it does simple. Because before it felt like everything was kind of simple when there was a structure to things. But now that you can be seeing like, oh, I was looking through a lens, and you're taking that off, I think everything doesn't neatly fit in the box anymore. And that can create complications. And I think that there's this part of you that if you're really going to be accepting of this circumstance, it's going to mean that there's just like a new way of looking at things, and that can change the way that you interact within the circumstance. And I do feel again like this is all stuff that's happening within you. I don't really see that much change or chaos going on right now within your environment. This feels like, if anything, there's like a lack of stimulation within your environment. But on the inside, as far as what's happening, I see like this crazy change that you're going through right now. That's like an insane metamorphosis that's taking place at this point in time, where you can feel like when you come out of this, you're going to be like a totally different person, you know, and not in a way where it's like this reinvention of yourself, but more so like a more honest version of yourself, because it's more grounded in truth rather than dogmatic things that you've sort of like taken on and embraced and claimed to be your own, when you recognize that you're so much more complex than that. So I think that like overall what the biggest concern is like living in a way that's like not really true to you, or like maneuvering through this situation in a way that's like not really like ultimately honest. But that can also be the fear too. Like the hope can be to be seen, but that can be the fear as well. It feels like something funny like that within the energy, where this is going to take transparency, it's going to take courage, and it's going to take like an honest heart and taking steps that are reflective of that, of you being in like the purest place within your soul and moving forward in that truth. And I think like that's what you can want more than anything, and it's also the thing that you can be most terrified of simultaneously. So as I said before, it's like when you were kind of like looking at things and it's like these are the rules and I'm just following the rules because this is just how it is. I think it made everything simple, but now that you're seeing it's just a lens and it's not this like ultimate truth, and you can see that clearly what you were subscribing to, which I feel like you're on your way to seeing this. And it can definitely like peek through sometimes. It's like sunlight like filtering in through the cracks. I get that before it could have been like things were so simple and there was only one direction, and now it feels like this complicates things, but it's more honest than it's ever been. And the card that I'm seeing on the bottom of the deck is the Lovers. So this can have to do with the choices that you're making, what you deeply care about as well, what you're focusing on, and your relationships. And also how you show up when it comes to your relationships and how you communicate. The Lovers are connected with Gemini, and Gemini is connected with your throat chakra. And I think that when we're connected with Gemini energy, when it's like less developed, can just be like saying things, but there's not too much of a like deeper, necessarily honest meaning behind it. And when we start growing up and developing within that energy of Gemini, it's speaking in a very deliberate way, making moves in a very deliberate way, being concise and being extremely intentional when it comes to what you're doing, and ultimately understanding what's really important to you. I think too that maybe there may be this part of you that I think that there's like a concern here, and whether you be fully aware of this or not, you know, like this can be something that you have dreams about it because you're still working it out, or you have like thoughts about it and you're like, what does that mean? Where I feel like I see this desire to move forward in a way that feels more honest than anything for you, and that there's like true transparency when it comes to like what's going on with you and how you're feeling and the moves that you want to make, in a way where you're like, that is really my truth. But having the Seven of Swords in the position that it is, I feel like there's this fear of like not being able to do that for some reason. Like, I know what I want to do, and if I was brave, I would be doing this and I would be moving that way. But the Seven of Swords being a fear can be like feeling like you can't, or feeling like you're not going to be able to push yourself to be able to do it and like live in alignment with this way that you want to be moving. But I also feel like that's a really powerful assessment as well, to even understand that in the first place, because it shows that you're still like working something out. Like, you haven't lost the battle. You haven't just like given up. You haven't just like waved the white flag here and been like, it's too hard for me to live in an honest way. I think this is showing that every once in a while I get like this Harry Potter reference that comes through. It's like when somebody has immense power and they're scared of like doing evil with it. I feel you being in some like moral dilemma kind of like that a little bit, but not, it has less to do with like you and other people, even though like your relationships can be involved. It's more so like you with you, and like if you're being honest and if you're not being honest, and like this type of thing. When somebody has immense power, and they are seen as like a good character, there's usually this point that they come to where they're like scared of being evil, but it shows that they have a conscience. And so it exemplifies something in that moment of them like having that conflict in the first place, because if that wasn't there, they wouldn't that wouldn't even cross their mind in the first place, you know? So I feel like because of this thing that's coming up that you're concerned about, it's like if it's crossing your mind in the first place, I think it's going to be less of a problem than you think it is. But yeah, there can be something that's really scary here, because Seven of Swords can mean like you're used to masking, or you can be used to just like not showing up in full transparency because of the like consequences of what can happen if you do that. Ironically, it's like wanting to be seen so badly, and you with you first of all, you with life and you with the universe first of all, because it's not just about your relationships with other people. This is like the way that you would be living if you were in the forest alone and you had nobody there to judge you, how you would be carrying out your life, or with like your select few, how you would be carrying out your life and doing things, versus when there's like pressure and perceived consequences that come through that bring us to a place of maybe being used to filtering or not being totally transparent, or like not wanting to hurt another person's feelings, or like wanting to people please, or whatever it is. But then in certain ways we feel like we're hiding, and we desperately want intimacy and a sense of connection, but then doing things that would be actually reinforcing the opposite. So I think like coming to this point where there's been a lot that you've been reflecting on and thinking about. And I think like recently there can be movement that was happening, or there can be a conversation, or just like something that you saw. There was something recently. Movement, something happened. And I feel like it's sparking something for you at this point that is bringing you to this place of reflection. And you can even be seeing again like yourself in this system that you've been working within, where before you could have seen the system as the whole thing, and now I feel like you're seeing the system as just like a small part of the whole thing. And that it's like not the whole thing, it's not the whole truth, it's just a lens. And that doesn't like take away the validity of that. It is a system. It does contain things within it, but it's not the be all end all. There's more to that, and there's more like objective truth, I think, beyond that system that is irrevocable. And I think at this point it's been invoked, because you're seeking for deeper truth. And this can be stuff that you want to clear up within your life as well. Like, I don't want this to keep going on unresolved. But what it does mean is that you fully have to surrender to this process, which means that you're going to have to go with the flow of this. And that can mean that you're going to have to grieve things. There may be things that you're going to, I don't know if lose is the right word, but there can be stuff that gets shuffled around and things that change. And if there's still resistance, which there can possibly be still some resistance, it feels like the like truer movement can't happen until that point. But I see death as feeling kind of like a choice that you would be making. Are you going to be this most honest version of yourself, or are you still fighting that to maintain this like false sense of control because you think that you know better than, I don't know, what this like more awakened version of you is coming to understand. So yeah, even though I'm like actually not really seeing too much external pressure, if anything, I'm seeing it be more desolate. I'm seeing it be more quiet. I'm seeing it be more still externally. So like within your environment, I'm not seeing somebody else pressuring you. I'm seeing it be more like this internal combustion of pressure that's taking place, where it's like you with you catalyzing this. But as far as stuff from the outside, I'm almost seeing like the opposite of that. It's like not external pressure, it's internal pressure. Externally, it feels like not really any pressure at all. I'm not really seeing you be pushed. So it feels more so like you with you. And it can be like you with your psyche, you with your spirit here, feeling like it's kind of this notion of like, how does a flower know when it's time to bloom, or like a baby know when it's, or a fetus like know when it's time to develop certain things, or like how does the caterpillar know when to go into the cocoon because it's time to go through the metamorphosis? I feel like it's one of those times where like instinctively, like naturally, organically, you kind of feel something happening, and there can be pushback because you can be resisting it, or you can be like, you know, go with the flow of it and not fight the nature of this process. But I do see there being like a concern of like, I don't know if I'm totally willing to do that, of like living in that honest of a space. And again, like you with yourself and within your integrity, I think more than anything. But it seems like everything is ultimately going in that direction. I'm seeing, who do we have here? I'm looking at Scorpio, Gemini, Taurus, and Virgo. There was something else that I remembered coming through too. If there was anything that happened, even if this is just like you being present to something that you're feeling, you can be like trying to find meaning. And maybe something that happened was that in like whatever old system you were using, or like lens you were looking at things through, you could have felt like you weren't connecting with a deeper meaning that really resonated with you. So that can also be something as well, because I am seeing you processing something that you may, I feel like you're not in full acceptance maybe of this situation, maybe like especially how you feel about it. So it's getting to this point where once there is full acceptance of like all of your feelings, that's going to then collapse so it can be integrated. But it can be something that is keeping you from fully surrendering to this process, is like not wanting to admit where you are with things right now. Let's just like use an example to explain. Sometimes I feel like I get too wordy with it and I'm just like saying a bunch of stuff without there being like a format for you to place it within. Let's say that you're in a relationship and you thought that you were going to be in this relationship for the rest of your life, and things have happened that you don't feel happy with, but you can be having a really hard time accepting that it might be the end of a relationship. What can be going on is this like resistance to allowing yourself to fully feel everything that you're feeling, because if you do, you would know that this would be the end for you. And it does not only have to be a relationship. This can be any situation. It's just an example that I'm using, where if you're resistant to accepting the reality, it keeps you from understanding the deeper messages of that situation. And before, I feel like whatever lens you were looking at it through, it was actually prolonging you from being totally honest and present about your actual feelings about this. It could have been helping you bypass, actually. It's like when someone finds themselves in a situation where they can be like martyring themselves, where there are boundaries that are needed and there's like a sense of acceptance that's needed within the situation, but the person will be like, oh, it's just my it's like when somebody feels like they're just supposed to deal with that, and that it's just their like cross to bear, when it's actually bypassing handling it and like doing something about the situation, so it just like helps them remain within the situation. without having to evolve. So it's like a form of bypassing that's happening. I feel like with the Hierophant, with that like being connected with the more unconscious energy, it can be some sort of system, a belief system that was being used that was helping one to bypass dealing with this. It's like in how certain religions, how like certain people believe you're like not supposed to get divorced or whatever, where it's like, well, that's just what you get to deal with, then you don't get to do anything about it. Then it's like having that be connected with a belief system that that's just what it is can kind of like validate for somebody why it's right for them to remain within a situation, when not that for a person that believes that it's the wrong thing, I'm not implying that, but it's not the only way to see things, because a person that has a different type of lens on would maybe handle the situation differently and do something about it then. As far as the situation that you're in, I feel like there was a lens that you were looking at things through where you're like, this is the right way to carry it out, and now seeing that there's more than just that lens to look at things through, because it feels like it really was putting off you processing this situation and doing something about it. Whatever this system was, it feels like it's falling away now because it's not true for you any longer. And you can see that it was just helping you to bypass, so you weren't actually processing something, you weren't actually dealing with it, you weren't actually facing it. And when we are bypassing, we're still feeling the remnants of what we're not dealing with. And it can be like, why do I still feel this way if like I told myself that this was just my like my lot in life and my mission in life, that I was just going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And because of you like coming more into your own truth, and as you evolve, you're seeing that, you're just seeing it as a lens now. And so it's like not the be all end all. And I think too that you're seeing where it's actually causing more harm than it is good for you on a personal level at this point. But it can be something that's really difficult to look at, because it means like the lying to ourselves is ending, and it means the fantasy is ending, and it means like any sort of, any places where we weren't totally being honest with ourselves or like dealing with how we really felt about a situation. It means like all of these things surface, which then sets things into motion. So even though I'm seeing things kind of like seem the same, if anything, in your external environment, on the inside, I'm seeing this whole process that's been taking place. And I think that it's like maybe the pain got to be enough. Maybe the sadness got to be enough. Maybe the disconnect got to be enough. Maybe you looked at yourself in the mirror and you said, like, I could actually be happy. And I'm not allowing myself. And if I keep doing this, I'm gypping myself of that, and I'm not going to find that within my life. And this just is my situation. And I'm not saying you be quick to do something about this. I'm seeing a lot of reflection and a lot of sitting with this and a lot of thinking about things and a lot of analyzing before you do a thing about this. I think that this is also helping you to develop your own authority in understanding like what works and what doesn't work for you, like rather than a system that you're like, okay, I'll like take that on because I haven't really cultivated this within myself. I think this is helping you to understand you building your own system based off of your actual values and not something that somebody is like trying to get you to fit into that system, or like what you were raised into or like programmed into. Now is the like finding the real system for yourself that like really fits with you and really fits with your situation. Maybe some of you too, like recently, when I say recently, it's not really connected with the timing. This would just be something energetically that would still be present. It already happened, but it will still be present within your energy. Recently, something may have happened where you experienced union, or you experienced unity, or you experienced compatibility, or you experienced a soul tie. You experienced something that came together where you were like, that fits together. And there was no faking, there was no forcing, there was no nothing. It was just these compatible pieces that came together. So maybe you saw something, maybe you realized something within the polarity of a situation that could have possibly sparked this for you, where you saw something that just worked, something that just went together. So it can be a moment that really left a deep impression on you of something that just like fit, is what this seems like, and you observing that, like having that experience. Interesting. So Ace of Swords is going in with Three of Swords, which can mean you're able to see through the pain at this point. Like you can see more than just pain. You can feel more than just pain, and you can see the truth behind that pain, which is the distance between where you are and where you're meant to be even. Where you were and where you're meant to be, the pain is like the gap between the two of those. You can still be debating what you're going to do about this. Like for some of you, I feel like it's a toss of a coin whether or not you're going to remain in this situation. I'm seeing it feel very much up in the air still. I'm not really getting a... Before, I feel like this wasn't up for debate. Now this feels like it is up for debate, but I feel like it was not something that you were considering before. Not with the way that you were looking at things, because I'm telling you, like, whatever was going on before, it was telling you that like your situation was fine and you didn't need to do something about it, and that's just how things are. So it was helping you to bypass, and now whatever this is that's been going on, it makes it more complicated than that, because you're seeing that it's like not the only way to see things, and it's also not the only option, and it may also not even be a filter that you want to be making decisions based off of anymore, because it may not like be kind of allowing you to have the quality of the experience that you want to be having either, and you can just feel like downright it's not really the truth for you. I think the Hierophant can be helpful in circumstances, because if you can't see a thing and you're given glasses that make you see a little bit better, we can like really be helped by that. But what if there are glasses that are going to fit even better than that? And I think that what you're realizing is that there are glasses that can fit, that can help you see even more clearly. But that doesn't mean the old system that you were using before, that old lens that you were looking through, it doesn't invalidate that. It was doing something, and I feel like it was helpful. I just feel like something that you're in the midst of developing right now is more helpful for you, and helping you like maneuver through your life and knowing what to do and what steps even to be taking. But yeah, as far as like ultimately what you're going to do with this situation, I am still seeing you be undecided. I think it's just something that feels really complicated right now. Think also too, like what was occurring to you before in your old ways of doing things, that's also changing as well. Like I feel like when you were remaining in this system, doing things in a certain way, it can feel like it was just one part of you that was showing up, that I think is going through a maturation process, like a developmental process right now. So it can mean that what motivates you and even like habitually what you do, that can be changing too. It's like being able to have your feelings and impulses and desires and thoughts, and moving to a place where you're deciding what you're responding to rather than just like automatically responding. For those of you that in your environment, this is something where there was movement, or you were like, let's say that this has to do with you and a partner. You guys may have been having tension with one another or conflict. I'm seeing it will still feel unresolved, but I feel like right now nobody's talking about it. So it can be something where it's like the problem is still there and it hasn't been addressed and the tension is still there. But it looks like as far as like working through it or whatever, it's been on a pause lately. That's what I'm seeing be going on within the environment. So I'm seeing that it's like making sure that silence or stillness is not being what is the word that I'm looking for? Conflated with there not being something to work through. It's like just because it's quiet, it doesn't mean that there's not still a problem, or just because nobody's talking about it and nobody's addressing it, or because the conversation died off doesn't mean that there's not still an issue meant to be worked out. There's still very much something that's going on, but I feel like right now there's just been like quiet on that front. Something else that's happened all throughout this process feels like seeing parts of yourself and becoming aware of parts of yourself that you weren't before. Like those really sly, sneaky parts of yourself that as soon as you like put the flashlight of your consciousness on it, it just like scatters and it's really hard to catch. And I think that you're seeing more of that part of yourself that is very like slippery and really difficult to actually like engage with and be able to like make eye contact with. And the last card, which is the Knight of Cups, is going in with Two of Swords. And I think this still is like being at a standstill, being on the fence, being in the in-between. Like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know what I'm going to do about this, but I'm definitely seeing you be like very much involved in working through. But I don't know if this just feels like something that's taking time to unfold. And the transition that you're undergoing, it's not something that's automatic. It's like a flower when it starts to open and bloom, and then maybe it closes a little bit, and then it starts opening a little bit more, and it's going to unfurl. But that process is just like, feels like you're very much in the middle of that, like standing between two worlds right now. Like you're simultaneously on like both sides of the portal, but I'm seeing you be like split in the middle of it, and ultimately up to you what direction you're going to go in. And you can be telling yourself like, I might jump backwards and I might not go through it, or I might go through it, and then that's going to be like the new space, the new timeline that I'm moving into. But I just get like right now you're like standing in both spaces, so you're just like in the middle right now. And I guess we're going to see what happens after that. All right, my friends. And leaving with the Lovers on the bottom of the deck, choices again, about like which choice you're going to make ultimately. And I think what drives that and what motivates that. Like, is it love? Is it truth? Is it awareness? Is it intimacy? Is it hiding? Is it avoidance? Is it fear? Like, what's going to be the thing that motivates you, that motivates what you do? And ultimately understanding that you are the ultimate power and you are the ultimate deciding factor. I want to thank everyone for connecting and for tuning in. I am sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.